3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're at in the U.S. or around the world somewhere. Thanks for joining us on Baseball Outside the Box. Hey, this is a show that loves to interview baseball's best coaching minds who love to challenge the status quo. And I will add, use some common sense in things that we do. So let's not forget the common sense aspect. We got a lot of technology out there. We got a lot of smart people, a lot of smart coaches, but let's use common sense once in a while. And the goal is what? To develop players long-term. Hey, before we start, do us a favor, go to baseballoutsidethebox.com for the audio, subscribe. Also, don't forget YouTube, Peter Caliendo, subscribe there. That helps us get the show out. We are thrilled because we're in over 100 countries where coaches, players, and parents are listening. And I want to give a special shout out to ESPN Honolulu. We are broadcasting there on their website. So we are thrilled to be joining everybody in Honolulu. We already had a coach from University of Northern Colorado on the show who was born in Honolulu, and we're going to have more experts. What a great place, like 1.4 million people, and they developed some great baseball people. So thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it. Today, I mentioned the word technology. Well, we're going to talk about technology, but this is one of the best I have ever seen. And I am biased because a good friend of mine who I've known for over probably 35 years, Tom House, is part of the program, part of the developing and the co-owner of this. But joining us today, because you know we've had House on the show before, he's outstanding. But joining us today is the COO and head of product and co-founder, Luke Collis with Mustard App. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on, Pete. I appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you being on it, because I was looking and I keep seeing it all over social media, and I know it's a new app, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I thinking? This is what we want. We want people to, it's not about selling anything. It's about letting people know about a product out there, an app out there that anybody can use, that's simple, that really helps young players. And the key word that I mentioned earlier, helps them long-term also, but helps them right away in their pitching, throwing, and everything else. So let's do this. I don't know the app that well, so that's why you're on. Let's start off a little bit of your background, because one thing I didn't mention is that you played a little bit of arena football. So you were a quarterback, and there's some quarterback history in here with the app and everything about Tom House. So talk about yourself first, a little background yourself, baseball wise, where what you did, and then from there, how you got into football, and then we'll talk about the app.
For sure. Yeah, love to start about myself. That's we'll talk a little bit about it. Especially my baseball background, because it is funny, a football player getting into the baseball sports tech field. But yeah, I mean, from the baseball perspective, baseball was always my favorite sport to play. Mostly because it was kind of just hanging out with your buddies, like hanging out in the dugout. Those are like some of my favorite times. And like my baseball teammates, especially in high school, are some of my best friends even today, because there is so much like time that you get to hang out and just like, play baseball. Is there anything better? Can't really think of much better than that, right?
Yeah, most people will say they would agree with you. It's a blast.
It's a blast. So yeah, I was a pitcher mostly in high school, and I mean, I still love pitching today. I love all the pitching ninja stuff on Twitter that you see with people with like the same release point, but their pitches going in all sorts of crazy different directions. So I am a little bit of a pitching nerd. And actually my pitching coach in high school was a guy that you've had on the show too, not Tom House, but Kenny Medlock.
Oh yes, the famous Ken Medlock in Moneyball.
That's right. But there's also no funnier guy in baseball.
Yes.
Than Ken Medlock. Yeah, probably the biggest character I've met for sure.
And really smart.
So smart. Yeah. But, I was really, really lucky in high school to have someone like Ken Medlock teaching me how to play the game. Most people aren't. And I actually really like this Tom House quote. Baseball is a game of failure, coached by negative people in a misinformation environment. And I'm like, everybody that I talk to in baseball is like, oh, that quote is so true.
Yeah.
But of course, nobody thinks it's them. but everyone knows that it's true. uh, so, Ken, I got so lucky running into him as a coach because he's such a good coach. Most people don't have that, you know. Most people have coaches that think they know it all, and that's not right because nobody does. Not
And
even not
Ken,
even Tom House. You know.
and Kenny's not only smart, but he also played up to AAA.
Yeah.
So he's had the experience at all levels. He's coached at all levels. We coached together on Team USA, as you know,
Hmm.
in Sydney, Australia. And that's when I first met Ken. Great person. The other part was, you mentioned football. I just want to mention this. You mentioned football. It's interesting. I was on the show and I had Carl Iwasaki, which is the head coach that I mentioned, was born in Hawaii and is the University of Northern Colorado head coach. He recruits football players for baseball. Guys that have played football in high school.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it better than anybody. Football builds mental toughness, and later on we're going to talk about the app and mental performance, because your app was also one of your co-founders is a mental performance expert.
Yeah.
But now you played in high school, and then how did you transfer all of a sudden to? Did you transfer to football?
Yeah. So, high school sports is really changing a lot. Where probably back in the day, everyone was playing every sport, and I mean that's how talent developed. And I think that like we're learning that that's probably right. You really do want to develop range in your sports. But even for me, like I had to cut down on sports a little bit, and definitely going into college, I was going to have to cut down sport, whether that was baseball or football. Now, for me, I was like, well, football in college seems a lot cooler because like you've got the huge stadiums and whatnot, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to play football. So I went to the University of Nevada and played football, um, and I was there for 2.5 years. But I was a quarterback, and I was kind of stuck behind Colin Kaepernick, who was there at the same time. So I
Wow.
was like, all right, well, he's really good, and I'm never going to play here. So I ended up transferring to Occidental College, small D3 in LA. And, I ended up playing football there. And I actually did have an opportunity to pitch for them, but I didn't take them up on the offer, which in hindsight, I'm like, man, I kind of wish I would have pitched a few innings. That would have been fun.
But being a quarterback obviously helped with the app also. As we get into, we're going to talk about that. So you had the experience of baseball background, football background. That had to help tremendously.
Yeah, it helped. It helped so much, and specifically, it helped once I met Tom House. So I met Tom after I graduated from Occidental, and I was, playing professional football. I was really looking for, like a lot of people, better information, how to get better at my craft. And I know that there's a ton of people, a ton of parents, coaches, high school athletes that are looking for better information and just how to get better. It's the same thing for people that are already post college, and everyone's looking for that extra little bit. Doesn't matter how much more you have in you, how much more you have left in the tank. Everybody's looking to get better. I mean, it's really what I appreciate about sports. But that was me. I was looking to get better, and so I cold emailed Tom House. I
Ah,
went to a website that looked like it had been built in the 80s.
yeah, it probably
It
was.
was Tom. Yeah, because it was. It was like Tom. It might have been the first website ever. It looked like it, but it said, Tom House, and there was an email address, info@Tom House, and I emailed. Uh, I got a call a couple days later, just like a random call on my phone, and uh, hi, this is Tom House, and I was like, what? Is this a prank call? Is someone messing with me? And me and Tom talked for like an hour, and he was like, listen, I'm coaching all these guys down at USC. Just come down, come hang out. So I went down there, and I started hanging out with Tom, and he would lecture every morning for about an hour. And you know, there was a lot of guys that were already in the NFL, already where I wanted to be, that would come in and train, but they would always skip the lecture. Like they would just go straight to working out. They wouldn't pay attention to his hour-long talks. I went every single morning I could and listened to that hour-long lecture and really dove into what he was teaching, the lessons he'd taken from baseball and from sports in general. I was really paying attention to what he was talking about mechanics, the differences between football and baseball. And I could personalize it to myself too, because I had experienced baseball earlier. And so I was like, you know what? That is different. You know what? He's right about that. You know, I was always looking for how come I threw a football comparatively so much harder than a baseball?
Yeah.
Like I probably threw low 80s in baseball, but I throw football as like the compare it to 100 miles an hour. Like I always had elite talent.
Let me ask you, I always wondered about that because, football player, what, they could throw it 60, 70, 80 yards, 70 yards, right? But then when they try to throw a baseball, do they not throw as hard?
Yeah, that was what it was like for me. I had a super strong arm, but I couldn't throw a baseball that hard. And so I was like, why? I always wondered why. And then Tom said, yeah, Tom's big thing is you can only accelerate what your body can decelerate. So he said your accelerators are way stronger than your decelerators. So like, let's work on the backside. And so I always worked on the backside. When I was, done with Tom and like once I had actually worked on the backside, I got up and on the bump a few times and, threw a few pitches and I was throwing 90 and I was like, this is crazy.
And because of the decelerators, I remember either an article or Tom mentioning, which I thought was interesting because we don't talk about the brain enough. And that is that the brain understanding that your different muscles, and if the decelerators are weak, it's going to try to protect your body and not get you to throw as hard. But if your decelerators are strong, right, it's going to allow you to throw at max. I mean, because we don't think about the brain aspect behind this. And I want to mention, sorry to, because I know you wanted to say something, but folks on Facebook, if you have a question as we go on here, we're getting a little bit into, Luke's background, but we're going to get into the app. The app's interesting. And remember, Tom House, 40 plus years in the game, just in teaching aspect, pitched in the big leagues, didn't throw harder than 83, 84 miles an hour. Yes, he was the guy in the bullpen that caught Hank Aaron's 715th, I believe, home run. That's not the part of it. This is the brain in the game of baseball when it comes to pitching and throwing. He was so innovative 20, 30 years ago that I'll tell you what he said to me. He said, Pete, if you're going to get into professional baseball, don't use me as a reference, because of the fact that back then, it's just like a sports psychologist. Some of them thought that he was crazy. He wasn't crazy. He was just smarter than a lot of other people and used technology also early on to understand the game a lot more and did a lot more research. So God bless Tom House, one of the best in business, the godfather of pitching and throwing, no doubt. And Luke, we'll get into some stories here. I want to ask before I forget, okay, Mustard app, and it's team and then mstrd.com, right? And we're going to put it on the show notes and all that. But I got to ask you, because I didn't ask you off air, Mustard, what, I put that on my hot dog. Wait, how did that happen?
That's exactly right. I mean, tell me you think of the ballpark and you don't think about mustard.
Absolutely. You named it Mustard?
I mean, it's part of it. Really, the couple reasons that were most compelling is, first of all, when we tested Mustard with kids and we're like, well, what do you think about this name? They loved it. High school athletes were like, that's awesome. It kind of has this connotation of like something being elite and being really good. And I mean, I can get into the business model. Our business model is that we have elite coaching, but this is really for everybody who wants to get better. But then the other thing was we just loved is like put some extra mustard on it, throw a little bit harder. We love that. And it's, it's just good old ballpark, like mustard. I love that.
Absolutely. All right. So let's get into how this all came about. Obviously, you've known Tom for a while now, and you're doing work with him, and Tom's working with, he's got 22, NFL quarterbacks that he's worked with. we can't tell you the number of MLB big league guys, but also young kids that he's worked with. And that's another one. Sometimes he won't even mention the big league guys because, you know, he doesn't want other people to know that. I understand it,
Yeah.
especially some of the teams. But he's been so productive in all this. How did it come about?
Yeah. So I think actually that the personal story I've told so far is a really good lead in. Tom came to me about when I was done playing, and he said, "Listen, I've had all these athletes come through here, and especially the ones that are very successful, they, they'll pay $10,000 a session, or fly in for the weekend, pay $10,000, get the biomechanical analysis, do the whole thing, and then fly out or whatever. But I'm about done traveling. I'm about done, doing all that stuff. I really want to be able to teach everybody. I want everybody to be able to access what I'm telling these elite guys." And so I think he was actually the first one to mention it and say, how do we take what I do with the 3D biomechanical analysis to everybody? And that was a really powerful statement right there. Not just for, what it is on the face, which is like, okay, how do we do it technology wise? But it was a powerful statement because of the implication of giving everybody an opportunity to learn the best and to make the most of their athletic careers. What that means is, playing longer, because if you play past the age of 13, you get the benefits of playing sports. You're also a fan for life. So I just really thought that was a powerful statement. How do I take this 3D biomechanical analysis to everybody? How do I take my coaching to everybody?
And I love two parts of that. I love the coaching aspect because it's for all coaches, and we need it for all coaches. Coaches education is the top program. I mean, it's the best thing you can have when it comes to development, the game itself. And two, you said it perfectly. We got to get these kids to play past 13 years old and stop saying that. I keep hearing it all the time. Well, they're interested in other things. Well, they're interested in other things because they don't like baseball anymore.
That's right.
Because if they were liking baseball, why would they be interested in other things? They pick what they like the most.
Yeah.
And I get it. There is some that are going to drop out, but not at the numbers we're seeing after that age.
I totally agree. So yeah, the next step was really finding the right people to work on it and the technology.
And speaking of those guys, your brother's on it. Talk about your brother and some of the people involved.
Yeah, and he was the most key person, I would say. He's the CEO of the company. His background was also in baseball. He played at Cornell. He had a cup of coffee in AAA, as he likes to say, with the Mariners. But he was a baseball guy. Loved baseball through and through. Didn't play any other sports coming up. He was baseball. He loved it. After baseball, he became a lawyer, and he had opportunity to work with the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team as outside general counsel. The opportunity to work in sports, and then also be a founder or a co-founder in a startup. And from there, he really got business experience, got a taste of what it's like to start a company. And, I'm so glad that he got the opportunity to become CEO of this company, in part because of the way that he's driven it forward. And I can't believe I'm complimenting my brother right now. I'm better at, talking guff to him than complimenting him. But
and I want to interrupt for a sec. A couple other guys too, because I'm interested in understanding the golf aspect of it, and then there's the mental training aspect of it. So you got other partners in this.
For sure, totally. And I do want to say as part of the story that after Rocky got introduced to it, he's really what started driving forward the tech aspect of it, which we can get into.
Yep.
But yeah, next up is Jason Goldsmith, and Jason's like the best mental coach on the PGA Tour. and he's been running around with Tom for, a few years now. Once they met, they kind of just totally clicked, loved what each other were talking about. They say a lot of the same things in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason really uses evidence-based stuff to teach the mental game, which is awesome. And he does it in a unique way so that the past 2 golfers that he's coached, and he only coaches 1 golfer at a time, have gone to world number 1.
Wow.
So pretty powerful stuff. Yeah. And I used Jason's stuff in my career. And I mean, it was like a rocket ship after I started working with him. I used to my brain used to shut off for some plays, which in football, you only get a certain amount of plays in a game, and you shut off for 1 play during a drive, that can be it. And it just didn't happen anymore. It was a game changer for me. So yeah, that's Jason. I mean, that's really the core, founding team right there.
Let's
I can't talk about everybody working for us, and honestly, we have a monster team that I would love to, but
No, I get it, but we want, what we want to do here is we want the folks to know about the app, how it works, why they should get it, but a couple things. One, talk about the tech aspect of it, how the device works as far as, and mention, I read somewhere, are we not paying for this or paying for it later?
Yeah, I'll talk about both those. First of all, in terms of how it works, I think it's great to start with how it started, which was really making sure that kids are having an opportunity to get the best information. And the best information isn't just like, providing general info or whatever, and like having people guess like, oh, how does this apply to me? I do that all the time in my golf swing. I watch the Golf Channel and then I'm like, wait, am I doing this wrong? Do I have to do it? And then the next time I have the shanks out on the range because I'm thinking about doing something else rather than what I actually needed to be working on.
And here you can see it visually, and you get all kinds of stuff going on with this app.
Yeah. So really what you need is someone to tell you what you're doing wrong, not what everybody else is doing wrong. And that's what the app does. What it does is you take a video of yourself throwing, and it sees where your body is, and then comes back with an analysis, the same analysis that Tom House would give in person, and it tells you where your biomechanical inefficiencies are. Now, Tom usually talks in 11 variables. He says, like, here are the key variables that you need to go to. There's nothing stylistic. It's just like, these are the imperatives that you need to hit. That's what we run an athlete's motion through. The same variables. Now, in terms of what's in the app right now, we're still working towards all those variables. We've got about 7 right now. We do have 7 right now. We're working towards all 11. It's not going to be too long either. And we're very excited about that. But already in app, you can get your recommendations based off of those 7 variables. And you get personalized drills to fix your biomechanical inefficiencies.
And that's what I love about it, because you're also getting drills with it. Now, the $1 million question obviously is going to be what's different between this and other video programs out there, which are iPhone or other things like that. What makes it different and unique? Because I did want to ask you, one of those variables does that happen to be foot strike?
Yeah, foot strike is one of the things. Foot strike is one of the key frames that Tom would measure a motion across. And there are some key things that you can really derive from foot strike. So first of all, you need foot strike to be able to get accurate timing of a delivery. Tom really cares about first movement into foot strike, and that should be under 1.05 seconds. You also want to make sure that your shoulder's closed at foot strike. It hasn't started opening yet.
Mhm.
That's really the key to good hip and shoulder separation, is delayed shoulder rotation. So it's really
Now,
one of the key frames that you would care about.
if I have an iPhone, if I have a phone, forget the iPhone, but the phone,
Yeah.
that's not going to give me everything I need because my eyes are deciding what's good and bad. I can't really match it up to anything, or if I do, I'm not. Who am I matching it up to? You guys have, obviously with Tom's background, they digitize so many major leaguers in computers. They know the variable or the things you're talking about. So what about when the angles of it? Is it anything special with the angles? Where you take the angle, does it show multiple angles? Is that important?
Yeah. So, what we're building towards is, sorry, I got a siren going by the way.
Chicago to me.
We'll deal with it for 1 second.
You got
Um,
lights too.
yeah, you got the whole thing.
Mustard. Hey, the mustard's hot right now.
That's right. Um, so yeah, the two angles that you got to record from for right now, we're building towards 360. Take a video from any angle.
Wow.
For right now, it's front view, which could either mean behind the catcher or where a lot of facilities might put like a wrap soda or something, which is like halfway between the pitcher's mound and home plate. And actually, the way I record is that same view from front view, and I just put the phone down like on my water bottle and balance it, and that works fine. You can either do from front camera or back camera, and then the other view is the side view, and the side view is the open side view, um, and yeah, those are the two views for right now. Um, just make sure your whole body's in camera view throughout the entire motion, and you'll be fine.
Look, obviously, kids, we talk about this on the show with technology. If you use it right, any technology, if you use it right, what it does for a lot of coaches also, at least for me, it kind of confirms where I'm heading, if I'm right, if I'm incorrect, where can I head to make it. It kind of speeds up the development process a little bit because you don't have to guess. So kids
Yeah.
love technology, but why do they like this specific app for? Obviously, they're going to get better and they can see themselves, but is there anything else that they're excited about the app?
Yeah, and actually, I think that this goes back to your question, which I have not answered yet, about what makes the app different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, really, what makes it different is it kind of goes back to that same old statement again about the 3D biomechanical analysis and taking it to everybody. Um, a lot of people do a biomechanical analysis and they get a bunch of numbers back, and it's not actionable at all. But really, what Tom meant by that statement was they're going to get my 3D biomechanical analysis. And what that means is you're getting 40 years of Tom's research, of which he's collected this enormous data set across multiple sports. But even in baseball, when you look at who's in the data set, you're talking about Nolan Ryan, talking about Randy Johnson, talking about Greg Maddux. You're talking about, through the years, this incredible data set, and Tom pulling out the key learnings from each individual, being able to chart them, see what makes the best major leaguers, and then creating the key variables and his regression analysis off of the best of all time. And I mean, the data set's incredible, by the way. Like, he's even got Michael Jordan in there hitting a baseball.
Wow.
So, that's really what it means when you're getting the app. And then it's not just being able to compare yourself against those folks and like see those learnings and where I pass and where I fail. It's like, great, but how do I get better? That's the question that everybody wants to know.
And that's what's great. It comes along with the drills because you get this report, you get this full report, and then with the report comes the drills that you need to work on. The other part of this is you don't need sensors from what I saw, like if the sensors that are on the body, folks, you've seen that before, that kind of shows a digital skeleton of the of the pitcher. Stopwatch, like for when we talked about foot strike to see how long it takes. You don't need that. All this stuff is calculated within this app.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Um, that's also why you can take it to everyone. Um, you know, the bulk of the app is going to be free. And yes, this one before too.
Well,
Yeah,
I was going to ask you, what are you, nuts? You're giving it away for free.
yeah. I mean, the bulk of the app will be free because when you talk about how to get something to everybody,
Yeah,
um,
I
you
love
know,
it.
all these social media companies are giving away stuff for free. You know, you don't pay for Instagram, you don't pay for
Yep.
Facebook, any of that stuff. So you know, I think that's a great way to do it. I love giving it away for free. We will have
Podcasts are free. There's a lot of things that are free.
That's right. That's right. There will be some premium subscription stuff,
Mhm.
and you know we'll give more info as that comes along. But you know, a lot of folks really want the experience of um, being able to get more content, being able to get more information and kind of deeper information. Um, so yeah, there'll be some premium content for that stuff.
The other question on all this, Luke, would be the best time to video somebody is really in a game situation. That's where they work the hardest. That's the
Yeah.
real, I mean, that's the real video you're going to get. So is it recommended to always do it there in a game or in practice?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the best time to video somebody is now. Is make sure that like whenever you can video somebody, that's the best time to do it because you do need to, you know, it, if you want to get better and you really want the recommendations and the information to make your motion better, then do it whenever you can, wherever you can. A lot of folks will even just use the technology and be doing towel drill. You know, that's helpful too. In terms of game situation, you know, a lot of folks are recording from, you know, behind home plate, from up in the stands, and you know, that's fine. There are some things that we probably don't recommend, which is like filming through a net and stuff.
Right, the screen.
Honestly, it usually works, but we don't recommend it because sometimes it doesn't. So and so yeah.
The other thing, if you can't get to a game, I mean, you could still, maybe it's a practice game, maybe you've just set up real hitters, like you're getting hitters out and instead of just having them pitch, I guess is what I'm saying. Cause kids are all trying to think of their mechanics when they're pitching if there's no competition.
Yeah, no, totally. And honestly, that's one of the key things that I really love about it is that a lot of people do film from games, and it does work. Yeah.
Out of the 11, I'm curious, out of the 11 um, key variables here, 7 of them already implemented, obviously 4 more to go. In those 7, have you seen consistencies? Is it pretty consistent? Most guys, are they wrong in all 7, or is it just, depends on the pitcher?
This is kind of where it gets interesting on Tom's teachings. So he treats his variables as a regression analysis. So whatever the first thing that you don't pass is, that's the most important thing for you to work on. And a lot of times it does end up affecting things down the chain and like improving things down the chain. So for example, if I didn't pass my lift and thrust, which is, what a lot of people call the drift, or, you want to be moving towards home plate as you lift your leg. If I didn't pass that, then that could be affecting other things down the line. So what we do is we go ahead and fix that first thing in the regression analysis. And a lot of times that fixes other things down the line. We'll go ahead and tell you everything you didn't pass.
Wow, man, folks, think about it. You're talking about an app that's free. For now, they're going to add some things, obviously might cost you, but the majority is free. You get to videotape your pictures live. It's going to give you a report. Think about this. And we're talking about Tom House here, background of 40 plus years in teaching. I mean, I could tell you he's the best in the business. I know there's others out there that have done a great job, but he's the leader and the godfather of pitching and throwing. When you're talking about, then all of a sudden you get this report and you get the drills. Are the drills visual or is it written drills?
Oh, it's visual.
Wow. You get a visual drill showing you how the drill works, because that's the most complicated thing sometimes in understanding how to do the drill.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we've spent a significant amount of time and effort to make sure that that the drills are explained well and that they look good. And
Where do those drills come? Via phone, via computer?
yeah, you get it in the same app that you recorded your video on. It's all on the iPhone for now. Eventually, we'll have Android, but for right now, it's iPhone. But yeah, you take your recording. About 30 seconds later, you'll get a report card. We ask that you take 3 pitches from the front and 3 from the side to get your comprehensive report card. But after you've done that, it takes you right to your recommendations and tells you exactly what you need to work on. And at that point, it's just up to the athlete. Tom House said in that first statement, I want to give the opportunity for everybody to have that same biomechanical analysis and to get better.
Yeah. And you know what? Even in coaching, Luke, we have to put the onus on the player, not always on the coach. The coach gets the information out, but it's the player that has to get better.
Yeah.
Parents have to encourage that. And folks, so a good friend of mine, Pablo Tesoro from Argentina, they put a couple of players on the program, and you should see the results from what they've accomplished with their pitchers. Incredible. Matter of fact, you're going to have a Zoom call with them to review some of that.
Totally. Yeah, we're talking to them next week. I'm pumped about it. I'm pumped about what he's been doing for Team Argentina. Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Hey, talk about maybe the seven different key variables.
Yeah.
Let's mention those, because it'll help with the understanding of the motion of the pitching motion.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that this plays to what Tom House thinks is important in emotion. And yeah, I think it's important. And I want to talk a little bit more pitching with you and just baseball in general.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is a good lead in. But the first thing and most important thing in a delivery is timing. So what that means is getting from first movement of the front leg into foot strike in 1 second or less. The second is sequencing. So that means that your legs start the motion, goes to your hips, goes to your shoulders, goes to your arm, goes to the implement. You need to do things in that sequence, because if you're out of sequence, you're not going to throw as hard. You're probably going to get hurt at some point. And then you've got these key variables, which start with your lift and thrust, which is basically like going towards the plate. Next is stride and momentum. So, throwing, as Nolan Ryan said it, he wanted to throw hard, easy. And so throwing hard, easy isn't just about how fast you're going towards the plate, which is important, but it's also about how far you stride. And it also the hitter has less time to react when you're closer to the plate.
Wait, okay, on that, and I hate to interrupt, because I think you just did a key point, and I saw it in a lot of the writings of the Mustard app. It came up quite a bit, and that is the consistency of releasing the ball as late as possible. That's a major factor when it comes to getting hitters out.
Yeah, for sure. It's releasing the ball closer to the plate, and the things that Tom teaches in terms of mechanical variables certainly help you do that. It's more efficient. It looks harder to the hitter. A lot of cases, it is harder because you're striding further and going faster. So yeah, it's it's the better way of doing things.
How about this, Luke? I guess let's take that stride just for a second, okay?
For
Some
sure.
kids maybe are not mobile, flexible enough yet to be able to take a longer stride. So now we're talking about getting into the mobility, flexibility part. Does that come in the report?
So currently, that that won't come in the report. In terms of stride length, there are some functional strength things that we can do, and those will be coming down the pipeline. Um, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that throwing hard, especially throwing hard easy, isn't just about your mechanics. It's also about your functional strength. And so that is something that Tom's really focused on. You know, when people go and see him in person, uh, we like to say that they come for the mechanics, they stay for everything else, which is
Yeah.
really a comprehensive look at the athlete.
Yep.
And so for functional strength stuff, we're we're already getting going on that, and you know, we'll really start with stuff that's basic warm up that you can do every single day, basic arm care, and we'll build into stuff that's focused on recovery, and then some stuff that's focused on more intensity training. You know, throwing harder, um, off season type stuff, which is, you know, weighted balls, your plyo balls, your weighted bats to work on, you know, hip and shoulder separation stuff. Um, so that's kind of where functional strength is going. There's definitely stuff that we can recommend for stride length, and that we will recommend for stride length that have to do with functional strength.
Love it. And the other aspect of this, you said the word, and that's safety.
Yeah.
All the injuries that are occurring. I mean, now we were talking about, because I don't care who you are, you can't be an expert on pitching, because as a coach, you're trying to do many different things.
Totally.
Pitching is important, but especially our volunteers, that are giving their time, they're trying to help. Man, if we can get young kids to throw more, and as you said, efficient, so that way there's less stress on their body, we're going to have less injuries. We don't have to use, it's again, I mentioned the word common sense before. If the injuries occur when they're young, right? They don't necessarily occur when you're in the big leagues.
Yeah.
They started already somewhere else and then ended up, when you got older in high school, college, or pro ball.
Yeah, totally. I think that, you know, there's a way that we can mitigate injuries.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the first part of it is making sure that you're mechanically efficient. The second part is making sure that you're functionally strong. Um, a lot of it's pitch counts too, which we'll get into, um, as an app, but that's a little bit further down the pipeline to, you know, calculate all that stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, listen, if you get injured, there's a high likelihood that you're not coming back to the game, um, and that's not what we're about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me ask you this, because it's a question outside of the app in a lot of ways, and maybe internally in the future. I don't know. Um, a lot of you mentioned pitch counts. Since you mentioned them, might as well address it.
for sure.
I get the part that why you need pitch counts. I understand that part, but a lot of times, even in the big leagues, a guy may throw, I don't know, 80 pitches, and they take him out, and it's like, why'd you take him out when it was so, at least by the eyes, it's so fluid and easy. There's got to be less stress on that guy than there is another guy who threw 80 pitches, but man, he just muscled everything. It was tough.
Yeah.
Problem is, we can't determine that. It's hard to determine. The eyes can't determine that. Are we eventually going to have a device on our sleeves or whatever? I know there's Motus Sleeve out there, but is there a device on there that's going to tell us how much stress that pitcher is using, so that way maybe we could take them a little longer?
I think eventually there will be. Tom does use a calculation for it that just having used it for football, I mean, my arm felt better than it ever felt before when I was playing professional football, just from doing some of the recovery protocols and stuff. And the way he really did it was with a formula, which is basically how much you're taking out of your arm. And then you kind of need to put that back in. So what that means is with exercises, you know, a certain amount of foot pounds, is what he talked about. And that whatever you took out of your arm from throwing, which throwing takes a ton out of your arm. I mean, your arm's literally, separating a little bit each time you throw. You really need to make sure that you're taking care of it and exercising it properly between starts and just between throwing sessions. So
And that covers, so he's talking about recovery too. So that
Yeah.
way you recover better, stronger, come back a little quicker. Ray Burris mentioned to me, how about this one? He mentioned to me, he thinks a lot of major league pitchers are throwing way too much before a game. Meaning like he didn't, he did a bullpen before a game, but he didn't long toss at all.
Yeah.
And those days they were pitching, 9 innings. Can you throw too much before you pitch? In other words, all your progression when it comes to long toss, then you got your bullpen prior to that. Is that possible? Are we not doing that enough? And that's why we don't see guys lasting enough. Again, those are different questions.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure. I would think that there's definitely such a thing as throwing too much before a game. I do love one story that Tom always tells about throwing before a game, and that is when Nolan Ryan threw his last no-hitter. He went into the bullpen, and like the first pitch he threw was like 12 feet above the catcher. And then like the second pitch he threw was like in the dirt halfway to home plate. And then like the third pitch he threw was like in the stands. and Nolan just walked out of the bullpen, didn't throw anymore.
That was it.
Walked below walked into the locker room, and national anthem's happening. Everybody's already out, and Nolan has not left the locker room, and everybody's like, is he gonna pitch? Like, is he okay? And then he goes out and he throws a no-hitter, and Tom was like, what was that? Like, how did you do that? And he was like, well, I wasn't throwing good in the bullpen. It wasn't going to get any better. So, I just went with what I had and figured I'd roll with it in the game. And here we are.
Yeah, I saw also, I know this is a future thing, but I'm wondering how you add this in, because you have obviously one of your co-founders with the mental performance training. How's that going to be added into an app, without giving up things, obviously, that, that you're not supposed to give up for right now till it's developed. But how do you put the mental part into an app?
First of all, I'll tell you anything you want. You just ask. In terms of the mental content, here's how we're thinking about it, and working closely with Jason on this stuff. Jason truly believes, and I know this for a fact, that when somebody asks, how do I get better at my mental game? It's not, oh, you need to focus on this or you need to do this. It's, you need a daily practice. Your mental game's just like any other part of your game. Like, you're not going to get better without working on it. There's no magic bullet. Say that again.
You need a routine.
Exactly. Yeah. So, the best way to do that for me, and I think other athletes, and to get into the routine, is really to do it while you're working out. Just hold yourself accountable. Make sure that you're doing it before and after your workout, which is best. Before your workout, just some quick breathing exercises. Maybe just be aware of your body. Another way to do it is just think about your workout routine a little bit. Think about what you have to do that day. After the workout, really the best thing to do is think about previous outings you've had and your best pitches. Go through your personal highlight reel. It's also great to visualize striking out the best of all time. Go, in your head, go strike out whoever's the toughest out in the major leagues. Those are great ways to do it. I think the best thing to do is to do them every day. Make sure that you're going through that every day. because as we know, especially with visualization, if you've been there before, it's a lot easier.
Yep.
And then with the, pre-workout stuff, when you get your brain to be in the moment, you perform better. And it's the same with working out. Doesn't matter if you're on the mound, if you're lifting weights, you're going to have a more productive workout if you're in the zone.
I love that. And the mental game's so important. I was just watching the Cub game the other day, and interesting enough, they talked about that because Kimbrel, when he throws a pitch, he'll set, after he sets, he closes his eyes. I got it on video. And one of the reasons he closes his eyes because he's visualizing where he's going to throw it. He does it really fast. Watch the Brewer game. Two of their top pitchers have been working with a top expert in mental training, and things they said, what did you get out of it? Or why did it help you, is because of exactly what you said. It helped them build a routine, which they didn't have. And now they focus a lot more on what they're supposed to accomplish. Hey, mention this. Since we did talk about the injuries part, Luke, talk about what are you guys finding? Because I know it's not perfect science. We don't know why everybody's getting hurt, but what are you finding some of the variables or why some kids are getting hurt later on in their career?
Tom could speak a lot better about this, and his variables, all his teachings are really aimed at this. So a lot of it's a health first model.
Makes sense.
And I can't tell you exactly why. I can tell you some things that really put more pressure on a thrower's arm.
Yep.
And make it probably a little bit more likely. And a lot of that is it's being out of sequence. So if you're recruiting, muscles out of sequence, it's not a good thing. And a lot of that shows itself at release point. If someone's glove is pulled way out here and their, body's all out there, it kind of shows itself a little bit. That
and the variables you talked about, I guess I answered my own question in some ways, because the variables that you talk about, that's the reason you guys pick those variables, because that makes you more efficient, that keeps you more healthy. And I get it. There's other aspects of that because you have to have the training, the development, and as we talked about, the stability, the strength, and all the other aspects of it. Anything else in the future of the app? And then we got maybe about 5 to 10 more minutes. We could close it off with, we want to talk a little baseball too.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else about the app? Because I only asked you certain questions, but again, the big question comes out to everybody around the world. Anytime they're getting stuff, you mentioned the part, and most of it's free, but the key also is why it's better. And you answered that question, but did we miss anything else about the app that people need to know about that really, perks their ears?
Yeah, I think the last thing that I would say about the app and the company as a whole is, we are about getting people better. And the thing that I'm really excited about in the near term is we are going to put on some virtual clinics featuring our technology. So, we can really personalize the clinic experience and personalize how you get better after the clinic with these virtual clinics. I think people are getting more.
That's going to show you that people can get on and they'll you're teaching them how to use the app pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a teaching in how to use the app. It's also, a big reason when we were researching, like, what do people want? What's our problem that we're solving with the company, is that people are really starved for good information. I think me and you were talking about that, is that people really want more information, better information, good information. And so even just providing some of the general information is really helpful. But then once you provide the general information, you have to personalize it. So that's really what the clinic is based around, is, a lot of the stuff that we're providing is general information to give some context to why you're doing things, to why this makes sense. But then from there, we're really personalizing to, hey, now this is what you have to do to fix it for yourself. So, we've got breakout groups in the clinic that are focused on some issues that you might see from an age group perspective or a window of trainability perspective. And we separate it out like that. But then after that, a player will leave the clinic with a prescription of a process to get better. So they'll have the app. They'll be able to continue understanding how to personalize the things that they learned in the clinic to themselves, so that it's a continuous process of getting better. I think that's what we're all after. We're all after a good process that's going to help us get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Love it. All right. Tell the folks, and we're going to put everything on the show notes. Plus, when the virtual clinics come up, we'll send that out on our social media, folks, and we'll put it out on our podcast. Here's the other thing. Let's take pitching in general. Okay. We've covered the app. Take pitching in general. Sure. Talk to our coaches out there and our parents and also players. Things that are critical when they're working with some of these pitchers. I mean, you mentioned obviously the app and some of the things in it, but any other advice you want to give to our folks out there?
I mean, what I just said, I think is just so important. We're all after a process to get better. What I really want to deliver through this app, and I think what the promise of the app is a process to get better. It's not just something that is going to give you information. It is going to give you information, but it's going to give you personalized information, and it's going to give you the things you need to do based off that information to get better. And I think that ends up closing the loop on the process. I guess the loop in the process is then go do it again. Go work on it, then go do it again.
Hey, does this process also include, all right, I'm a 10-year-old, right? And I'm working on pitching, and obviously you want to work on throwing first, throwing correctly. That helps with pitching. But what about, you see a lot of 10-year-olds. I mean, they maybe got pretty good movement and they're doing a pretty good job. Problem is their hand's real small and doesn't hold the ball real well. I mean, I'm not sure the app's going to tell you that. That should be a visual thing. I mean, because if the app tells you everything's efficient, but the ball goes flying up, top right-hand corner, it could be the hand's a little bit too small for them and they're gripping the ball incorrectly, no?
For sure. Yeah. And we really want to provide some additional content to help address some of those issues, some of those common issues that happen at different age groups that you'll see that aren't just, part of the variables. Actually, we've got a blog on the website about pitch grips. So I appreciate that. And you'll hear all, Tom's thoughts. I will say most of Tom's thoughts from that blog. But it really is good information. And we're continually putting out blog content that I think is really important information for folks that want to learn more about just pitching in general. Sure. I mean, mental game in general, everything. I'm loving what we're doing with the blog.
How did we forget this? Okay. Of course, the injuries are in pitching. Okay. But everybody's throwing because catchers, infielders, outfield, everybody's throwing, right? Yeah. And what about taking the app for throwers?
Oh, what's next? That's the.
Oh, I guess you couldn't take this specific app right now and just videotape catchers. That wouldn't work.
No, that wouldn't work because our technology and is really based off of max leg lift. So that kind of triggers everything. So part of the technology is triggered off max leg lift because it's very unique to the pitching motion. And so that's why it's done that way.
Man, eventually, Luke, I should have been in your meetings because, we're going backwards here a little bit. Now, I get it, pitching is important, but think about it. We are going a little bit backwards because if kids are thrown incorrectly, that's going to hurt their pitching. So you need to finish this next app real quick, right?
I agree with you. And yeah, I mean, we've got plenty of technology to work on, but definitely the next one is getting all throwers
Love it.
better, more efficient.
Love it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, man. Anything else?
You know, I do want to hear a little bit about your perfect pitch arsenal.
Oh yeah, we talked about it off the show a little bit. Perfect pitch. Again, I don't know if there's a perfect pitch because I think you guys know better than anybody. The body styles, the hand sizes. I think all that relates.
Yeah, for sure.
What kids are throwing. But as I mentioned, I do believe that, and coaches out there, we've talked about it on the show before, folks. You're working with, even if you're getting 10, 11-year-olds to pitch, right? Can you please start with the fastball? And teach them to move the ball in and out, up and down, angles, because give me a 10, 11, 12-year-old that's going to hit those pitches. Okay. I remember throwing, doing lessons many years. Many years of lessons. I remember throwing underhand to 11-year-olds who are pretty good hitters. And I'd move it in and out, and I'm not even throwing hard. And I can get guys out just on moving in and out. So I think what we underestimate in the U.S. is throwing the four-seamer. And okay, if you want to throw a two-seamer, that's fine too. Or you want to mix any grip you want, just change grips up. Maybe who knows what'll happen to the ball. But we forget, we say, well, he's throwing strikes. Yeah, but where's he throwing strikes? Always down the middle? He is. Okay, that's a great start. But eventually, yeah, even the average hitter is going to hit that eventually.
Yep.
But can you move the ball in and out? Can you hit the catcher's knees? Can you hit the catcher's shoulders? To me, and we all know now because of technology, that also changes speeds. We got to let the kids know that, right? Because they think you, as a pitcher, if you're just throwing fastballs, you think you're going to get clocked.
For sure.
That's not true. And then the next aspect of it, I believe, is now we go to the changeup with the young kids because it's an easier grip. It's just like the fastball. We don't have to do anything different, at least for the real young kids. Later on, you can manipulate it like guys do, change it, make it drop a little bit, change the grip a little bit and all that. And I just think you're going to develop better pitchers that way, more strength, better release points, better movements, and because they don't have to think as much about anything else. I get it. You and I talk about throwing the curveball. I get it. If you throw correctly, it's fine and all that. Problem is, it takes a long time. And as you said, you got to throw strikes. And it's really tough to throw a curveball for a strike. And so, again, if I look at perfect pitches, I think most people agree. Fastball, but change the grips up because there's so many different fastballs you can have, right? And different locations, which means you have more than one fastball. You might have 5, 6 different types of fastballs. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
And then go to the changeup. So I think that's where you start.
Yeah, and I really like how you think about it. And I think this is an important conversation because, like we're talking about, you can't just have one thing. You can't just have mechanics live in a box. You think you're gonna have perfect mechanics and that's gonna fix everything? No, you really need a comprehensive approach to playing the game, and you need everything.
Hey,
the curveball.
Hang on, one more thing. My perfect league. Okay, 12 and under. If I was commissioner, and I'd be fired probably after the first day here in the U.S., I would have a fastball league only, because again of what we talked about. Plus, your defense isn't going to be sleeping all day. You talk about playing the game long term. Why do kids get bored? Because there's no balls being hit sometimes out there, waiting for the pitcher to throw strike. Who wants to play that game, right? Yeah. I don't want to play that. So I'm going to. You were going to say curveball.
Curveball goes back to the Pitch Grips blog. I really like the way that Tom House talks about throwing curveballs, and he says that it is a safe pitch if you throw it right. A lot of people are trying to really manipulate the ball at release point and stuff like that. What he says is grip it tight, bury the ball, and then you just got that grip and stay with it. And in a lot of cases, it's actually easier for kids to throw. But the pitch grip blog, I really like a lot.
You got this one too, right? Where it's almost, you're throwing it like a football almost.
Yeah, for sure. That one's natural to me. I don't know. I can't ever do it, right?
Yeah, but the curveball, you're almost throwing it like a football, and your hand's coming down. and you get that 12 to 6 spin. The other part is figuring out the easiest way for those kids to be able to throw that. And I think Tom's got, that idea. He understands what the easiest way to throw it. It's kind of like comparing, the circle change.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old throw a circle change. You can't grip it. So why would you even teach that? Unless the kid's got fingers, like 6 feet long, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Might be able to grip it, but again, young kids. So I think adaptability to the type of player and his body style, I think you have to understand that too a little bit.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny that you bring up the circle change because I learned to throw a different changeup when I was a kid, and it was Ken Medlock actually taught it to me. He said, "Circle change, it's not for you. Try this one." And what I didn't realize at the time is that he was teaching me the seam shifted wake. Is that it was this grip right here, and you kind of gripped it almost like a two-seamer with your middle finger. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what it was. And so my best pitch was my changeup, which kind of dropped off the table going the other way.
And it's such an easy grip, and you don't have to think about it. You just throw it.
That right there.
Yeah. And then you're seeing what's great about the game. You're seeing more and more big league guys go to that grip. You don't see as many circle changes anymore. Hey, listen, not to cut it off, but I have to because my producers are going to wonder, am I turning into Joe Rogan? And we're 3-hour shows here.
Right.
Because we love talking baseball, obviously, and pitching.
For sure.
But throw some, what else? One more thing. Let's throw one more thing out there for our audience. What else?
I guess I was still on the same topic, and the thing I was wondering is what makes pitches hard to hit. At first, I was thinking it's reaction time, and how much time you have to react. But then I was like, why does an ephus pitch work?
Why does it work?
Yeah, why does an ephus pitch work?
I think most good hitting guys will tell you, and I'm watching guys at the major league level too, and when they really struggle, it's a timing aspect. Their visual aspect and their timing isn't coordinated together, so they're not picking up the ball well enough, because we talk about this all the time, right? You got to hit a ball, see it. Okay, see it, but how do you do that? Don't you have to train for it? You got to train to see a baseball. You can't just say, watch the baseball. They're going to think you're nuts because that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to watch the ball, but how do you watch it and how do you time it? And I don't think we work on that enough because we're so accustomed to just throwing batting practice. Batting practice, I can hit that now, batting practice. But what's it like when you get into a real game and you have enough practice, either practice games or practice against real life pitching to be able to work on your timing? And how do you start working on timing? So there's a lot of aspects there. And that's why when you and Tom talk about late release, and Tom's mentioned this, the later the ball's released, well, visually, it looks like it's coming quicker and possibly miles per hour, it's coming quicker, right?
Yeah.
So now I got less reaction time to where, and if you go back to the curveball and you open up too early, now you see the curveball early, I can identify that pitch, right? And that's why the glove needs to stay out in front. So that way they don't identify it. So it really comes down to visual, picking up the ball and timing it. And that's really hard for hitters. Why are you seeing, think about it, Luke, why are we seeing pitchers dominating hitters more now? Now people say, well, there's a launch angle. Okay, well then change the launch angle for all I care. You better change the swing. Well, what we're seeing is that the pitchers are throwing harder. Some people are saying, well, the radar cam, they're not using the right radar gun, or maybe they want you to think they're throwing harder. Whatever it is, they're throwing harder. If they're throwing harder, what's the hitter doing to adapt to that? You have to do something, because if they're throwing harder and throwing up high and your launch angle is in a bad angle and you don't have good exit speed because you're not gonna be able to get the ball out of the park, and kids see that and then they want to emulate that, well, we got problems. So to answer your question too on that, velocity is an issue, because the harder you throw, if I had two pitchers with identical pitches and one threw harder than the other, who you picking?
Yeah.
I'm picking the guy that throws harder because of the reaction time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm a big believer. If you can't throw hard, then reduce the other speeds of the other pitches. Go backwards.
Yeah.
Because if I've thrown 85 and right now I don't have time to throw and work on throwing 88, 89, then take your changeup and your curveball, reduce those speeds to change that reaction time.
I would say for the most part, sometimes you got these guys throwing 97 miles per hour sliders now. And I'm like, okay, you can stick with that one.
I just saw a changeup today at 91 on TV. 91 changeup, and the guy's throwing close to 99, fastballs. I mean, think about it. That was average fastballs used to be 88, 89, 90. Now the changeup's there.
Jeez.
And then they wonder why it's harder to hit. Come on.
Jeez.
I don't care how good the athletes are. Pitchers got the advantage. I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No matter what, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's my thoughts.
I loved it.
This has been fun. I appreciate it. I will follow up. We're going to put everything on the show notes, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show. We're going to put everything about the Mustard app out there, how to go to the website, and then also the virtual clinics coming up so you can learn more about it. It's free. It's a no-brainer. Best product on the market right now to help pitchers and later on to help throwers also. Luke Collis, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you joining the show.
I should mention one thing. The clinic itself is $50. The app is free.
That's all right. Hey, this is a business I'm making money too, right? I mean, it's not where everybody else that works gets to make money. Well, just because you're in baseball doesn't mean you have to give everything out for free. So folks understand that, and we will be promoting the app. So again, special thank you to Luke Collis, the COO, head of product and co-founder of the Mustard app. Hey, folks, special thank you to Brian Crock, our producer with the Line of Media Group. Special thanks, especially to everybody in the U.S. and around the world for joining the show. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, go to baseballoutsidethebox.com for the audio. YouTube, Peter Caliendo. This show will be on YouTube also, currently live on Facebook. Everybody on Facebook, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Everybody, remember, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you on the baseball field. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye-bye, everybody.